All right, so he's moved to flashcard number 18. I'm not going to go through all of the powers of Congress here in flashcard number 18. It's really something you should be able to recognize the powers of Congress, be able to list the most significant ones, and you should be able to identify if a list of powers are given, what is a power, what is not a power. You know, some of the highlights of the powers of Congress, of course, are the power to tax, the power to declare war. But a couple other provisions are in there that are extremely important because they're very flexible and can be expanded to encompass a wide variety of topics, such as the power to regulate interstate commerce, anything related to commercial activity, and then the necessary and proper clause, the power to make any law that's necessary and proper to carry out the foregoing powers. So those are really important constitutional powers among all of the powers in Article 1, Section 8. So be able to go through that list, take a look at the Constitution, and recognize those powers. Same discussion for Article 2, understanding what are powers of the presidency as opposed to powers of the other branch. The president doesn't declare war. He's the commander-in-chief, though, right? The president has the power to veto legislation. The president can pardon. The president can sign treaties. So understand the key powers of the executive. You should go through your notes and find the key powers of the executive as well. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them here right now. And then with Article 3, understanding what cases the Supreme Court has under the Constitution the authority to hear, but also recognize that judicial review, the idea of striking down laws as unconstitutional, that's not in the Constitution. That's something that actually is a power that comes later on. But important to know under the Constitution that Congress sets up the court system. Congress establishes the appeals jurisdiction of the court. Congress decides how many judges there are in the Supreme Court. Also be able to know the basic features of the Supreme Court in the sense of judges serving for life and they're appointed by the president. So understand those provisions as well. And then here on slide 21, it's simply not something I'm going to go through on the flashcard video, but there's a chart that you have access to about all the different checks and balances and the ways that the branches balance one another. Make sure you understand multiple examples of each. You can recognize what's an accurate check of one branch over the other. Speaking of checks and balances, we can talk about the power of impeachment. This is one of the examples that we go a little more in depth on. It's very significant, especially in the modern era, since we've recently had a president who was impeached. Impeachment is to charge a elected official or a court judge with a crime. The House of Representatives officially charges someone with a crime by impeaching them with a majority vote. Then there's a trial in the Senate. And then the Senate has to vote by 2/3 majority to convict. In most cases that we talk about this, we're talking about the presidency. So impeachment is the first step of the process, but then conviction and removal is the second step of the process. So majority vote in the House, 2/3 vote in the Senate. That's very important. And it's a very important check that the Congress has on the presidency in particular. We have had presidents be impeached, but we have not had any president be convicted. Now, when we talk about other ways that Congress can check the executive branch, they can conduct investigations through their oversight authority. Congress is the government entity that can create government agencies, and they're run by the executive, and they can conduct investigations and inquiries into those agencies. We'll talk about more of that later on in the course. When we talk about the legislative branch and basic requirements of the House and Senate, make sure we understand you have to be 25 years old to serve in the House, 30 to serve in the Senate. You have to live in the state in which you represent for both. You have to have been a citizen for 7 years to serve in the House, for 9 years to serve in the Senate. And, of course, the House has 2-year terms and the Senate has 6-year terms, understanding that the Senate is the more elite body. There are fewer senators, and they serve longer terms, so they have to be older. And the idea of having kind of a different nature and characteristics. Senate also has additional powers that maybe the House doesn't, in that they confirm presidential appointments, they ratify treaties, so they have some important powers there. And it's important to understand that the House also has key powers as well. So we talk about powers of the House versus powers of the Senate. The House is where revenue bills originate because they're closer to the people themselves. The House is where the impeachment process starts, but then the Senate is where they have the trial of impeachment. The Senate is where they have the confirmation hearings for judges, and they confirm judges, where they confirm presidential appointments. So this House and Senate have different powers and authority as well. They also operate differently, and we'll talk about that in our unit on Congress. According to the Constitution, the vice president is someone who has very few constitutional roles. They are the president of the Senate. They cast the tie-breaking vote in the Senate if there is a tie. And then they also assume the office of the presidency if the president is removed or incapacitated or dies. So those are their constitutional roles. And aside from that, they actually don't have other constitutional roles, although they do lots of things in the modern era. So we'll stop there. We'll pick up with the next video.